Hey, welcome to another exciting adventure with the Cranky Geeks. I'm your head crank, John Dvorak, and we've got a nice show lined up for you today. So let's begin by introducing today's guests, beginning with the Sebastian Rupley. Still calls himself the co-crank because he makes these cards up.
Sebastian.
And he's the editorial director of PCMagcast.com. And sitting on his right is Dave Mathews, the non-musical version, who now bills himself as an inventor.
Now, like that's anything new.
And of course, best known for inventing the cat, and is also now billing himself as a tech journalist, which we'll talk about later. David Sparks across from me. He's the host of the Spark Minute, and he's also a tech journalist, I believe. At least he thinks he is. During the DTV transition, look out for lost channels. The DTV, digital television, is underway. PC World reports that people have a misconception they are completely set for digital TV if they have a cable subscription. It's only true for the broadcast channels, they report.
Yeah, what's going to happen is a lot of people are just going to be reporting that they're not getting certain channels that they used to get
on the cable.
Yeah, it depends on where you live, depends on your antenna, all kinds of stuff.
This is the most underreported story, and that it's only being reported now. I didn't see any
know
stories
about
this at all.
I thought that if you had cable, you were good to go.
Yes, that's the way they reported. It's like, if you got cable, don't worry about it. If you got digital cable, don't worry about it.
Or a regular cable.
And then I received that card that you got there.
This card, which is right here, it's got a camera on it. Want to hit it?
Literally just a couple of days ago, saying, "Oh, we're going to convert in just a few days. You need to call us right away if you might need it." And it doesn't really
urgent
describe
information about your service. You may have heard we at Comcast are enhancing our network in your area to provide you with more digital channels, but you may need new digital equipment to keep channels 34 through 81.
So I actually had a situation because I have two sets, and one of them had an old TiVo Series 2 on it, and it's hooked up to an analog TV. So yes, I do actually end up needing a converter, and I called today, and they're sending it for free.
Is it free?
Yeah. It's
then what's your belly aching?
Yeah, but it's such a pain, though. You got to have another converter
nonsense
hooked up, which is a pain, and then the TiVo is going to have to control that converter, which is, you have to hook up the optical blaster.
Essentially have to loop them through.
But the reason why they're doing this is just like every other switch network, they're trying to get more capacity, and each analog television station takes up 6 megahertz, which is a pretty big swath of bandwidth on your cable system, and they're able to compress that using their latest MPEG technologies and take it off the analog spectrum and put it in digital spectrum.
So compressing and compressing and compressing and beating the signal to death, and you get a piece of crap at the other end.
I think the real issue is, first of all, they're going to lose people in this whole conversion. I mean, people are going to get lost. But the whole idea is, like what you're saying, is use all this extra bandwidth for sell everything else. The question is, will the ability to sell everything else through all this extra bandwidth make up for the fact they're going to lose all the
customers? Well, I think
the
important thing that they're doing for guys like me is they're going to DOCSIS 3.0, which will be 100 megabit or 60 megabit, depending on how they compress that. So now I'll have high-speed internet. I can just drop all these TV channels altogether.
Which a lot of people are going to do.
They've already done analysis on how many people are not ready for this. 3.1 million people are completely clueless about this. I mean, there are some people out there who have analog TVs who are literally going to be going, "What happened to my TV?" I mean, they have no idea.
Is that the way they talk?
Yeah, that's the way they talk.
That's the way. That's
in the rural areas.
In the they're stupid in the rural
your
areas.
contempt for the average man has no bounds.
You're going to get a lot of nasty responses.
I love the
for
Midwest. I just want to make that clear. Born and bred.
And I went to school.
Okay, now I use the Dish Network, and I don't have a problem because basically I get
you have problems, don't you?
No, what problems would I have?
I'm just talking in general.
Oh, well, that's a different story.
Rain fade, snow fade. Well, maybe not in the Bay Area, but Dish has its own set of problems. But they too are
the rain fade is very rare. It only happens maybe once a year.
But they're compressing the signal as well, so every so many years.
I got an antenna. When you have their DVR, I think it's a 621 or whatever. It has regular digital TV tuner in it, and I have a fringe antenna, which, by the way, I keep in the house. It just happens to be behind a painting, but it's a big bow tie, and it plows through the house and picks up all the digital channels. I get 40-something.
Wow.
And they're all beautiful.
So you're living the dream. You've got mixed worlds. You've got the terrestrial high definition, which is the best quality.
Right, and the
MPEG
sound,
2.
by the way, is extremely good on terrestrial.
Then that's the DTS, 5.1. That'd be AC3. DTS is the next step up from that. But then via your satellite receiver, you'll be getting DTS and then MPEG-4 compression on the Dish network. So that's a nice hybrid between the two technologies.
Yeah, and it works.
It's good.
You're on the bleeding edge.
Yeah, well, the problem I have, and I should talk to Dish about this, every so often, and now is one of those moments, they have, what's cool is that even though you're bringing over the over-the-air stuff in, it gives you a channel guide for the over-the-air stuff that comes and goes. For like a couple of months, I'll have the channel guide, see all the stations, so then I can use the DVR to record, blocks instead of having to do the time recording. And now it's gone. It just says, digital programming. It doesn't say what the shows are.
So sometimes you have to go into your box setup and put in your zip code, and by doing that, then it knows which guide data to pull in. So.
You think so?
But then how did it know in the first place?
Yes,
because his box might have gotten hit with a firmware update, and it lost that zip code information.
I'll see if there's a zip.
But it's in the stream. So that's good.
Why should a firmware update constantly
Don't cross
cause
the
it to lose? Like that. It just wipes everything
It
out?
could have. I've seen that happen before.
I'll look into it. They also had a thing the Dish Network has, not that I'm going to just promote the Dish Network, but they have now they have this little USB connection on their, and you could put a external drive, but somehow you have to have it turned on.
Right. Yeah, you have to, this is to expand the DVR. So they were really first with DVRs to let third-party drives expand them. And TiVo has a stranglehold. They only let you use certain DVR expander drives, which have a premium on them, which really sucks. But you could put a 500 gig or a terabyte drive and then record even more
crap.
Melted
But how do you,
television.
Yeah.
I don't know why everyone needs literally hundreds of hours of recorded video.
Just in case.
Yeah, you can't, if you can't get to the worthless programming, you can get to it later.
This has always been my argument that if you have TiVo, you just watch tons more TV.
No, you don't.
No, quite the opposite.
We keep telling you this, but you refuse to listen. It's quite the opposite, and he's right. You record it, and then you never go back to it.
No, but more than that is sometimes you sit down to want to be satisfied by television and you flip to look for something, or you're sitting there, waiting through commercials. All that is wasted time. With TiVo, boom, I want, one show, boom, you sit for 22 minutes and it's done and it's less TV.
You're the only guy in the entire tech world that doesn't Twitter, and you refuse to have a DVR.
What's the name of the last book you read? Come on.
I'm reading.
Come on. I'm waiting. He's digging back for one that he read a couple years ago.
You got to give him some slack. Isn't your computer dripping oil now, too?
It's a Lewis Mumford book, but I can't remember the title for the life of me. Anyway, okay. Actually, let's take a break. We'll be right back right after this.
I'm Danica Patrick, IndyCar driver and GoDaddy girl. I know a little bit about speed, so take it from me. If you want a fast way to make a name for yourself on the internet, GoDaddy has everything you need. GoDaddy got me online fast, and they can do the same for you. .com names as low as $1.99. When you have something to say it at GoDaddy.com.
Welcome back to the Cranky Geeks. Topic here, Hulu's desktop app and its Boxy shutout. We just coincidentally have Dave Mathews here, who's one of the
advisors.
He's one of the advisors.
Last time he was a shareholder.
Yeah, that's true.
Did they take your shares away?
No, it goes hand in hand. See how I did that? I kind of connected all the dots.
So you're not really with that company anymore.
No, of course I help them out on strategery.
Well, what's the deal? What's the deal with
Okay,
this Hulu
so
thing? Give us the story. The story from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, the story is Boxy, this all-purpose media player, put Hulu as an RSS reader via a Mozilla browser framework. So now if you're using Boxy, it acts just like a Firefox browser would to access Hulu content. And Hulu didn't like that so much.
Why?
They told us the studios did not want the content from Hulu on the televisions. And Boxy makes it really easy to watch PC content in your living room because of the 10-foot UI. Microsoft with Media Center and TiVo. Everyone has like fighting for digital reign of the living room using a remote control to essentially control a computer. So we think we did a great job with it at Boxy.
If you do say so yourself.
Yes, Hulu.
Well, actually, most people agree.
Yeah. So fortunately for me and my ego, so the Hulu group said our content partners, right? Hulu's just a web portal, right? Hulu was created because YouTube had all this network television content on it. So about $100 million was put in from the NBC group and what's Fox programming.
Seems like a lot of money.
A lot of money, but they had to compete with the what it was $1.5 billion for the YouTube acquisition. So the here we were having this kind of discussion with them back and forth on the web with the content availability of Hulu on Boxy, and lo and behold, they launched their own client.
But that doesn't come as a surprise.
A Boxy clone?
Sort of. So Boxy is open. Boxy can play everything from Last.fm to Pandora to Picasa, Flickr. So it's not only just video, but also music, photos, movies, everything.
It's a media center.
Right, a complete media center application. What Hulu's client is just a 10-foot user interface for only the Hulu content. So if you think about it, it's like blinders only into the world of Hulu, whereas Boxy's open and plays anything.
What baffles me in all this is why do the content people not want their stuff out there reaching as many people as possible?
I think that's what he might be getting to is the fact that maybe that wasn't the real reason that they protested and took it off. Because they were going to do it themselves.
Yeah, they were going to do it themselves.
Doing an end run. It was just that.
It wasn't a surprise. Of course, they were ultimately going to put this in the living room.
It was a rumor. There's also rumors of an iPhone app that might be out for Hulu.
Isn't this a restraint of trade suit?
No, but hold it. Wait a second. Now, does the Boxy experience, when you taking in the Hulu feed, when you were doing this, did that detract from them still generating the revenue through their experience?
At all. And Boxy still works with Hulu today via this RSS methodology. It's not as pretty as it used to be. The Hulu interface is pretty, but we show the same ads on Boxy as the Hulu client
this
does.
just goes straight down to branding, because what happens is if you now bring Hulu through Boxy, they don't have control over the branding anymore. And they don't want that. They want the Hulu experience to be 100% control and branded by them. And that's the reason. They don't want this.
Yep, so we put an open call on our website. Our CEO is so great about communications and blogging. So we said, Hulu, now that you've embraced the 10-foot UI, clearly, by creating this application that works with remote controls on both Mac and PC, it seems like you'd be ready now to work with Boxy to reinstate the full, rich, branded UI into our framework. So the jury's still out on that. We haven't gotten the call back from them on that.
What about the restraint of trade issue?
Well, I think it'd be different if we were trying to make money on this stuff outside of the ads. And right now, the model with Boxy is just pushing those ads through. Ultimately, Boxy wants to enable charging of content, and Hulu might start charging where we want to be an affiliate. And this is working very well for Boxy with the Netflix relationship. Boxy's an affiliate, and we're pushing thousands of streams per week from the Boxy front end into Netflix.
Well, that made a long story short. Now you know everything you need to know about the discussion, I think. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
All right, well, actually, let's see. Well, here's another kind of a TiVo thing we should get to. TiVo wins $100 million from EchoStar.
$190 million.
$190 million. A federal judge in Texas recently awarded set-top box maker TiVo about $190 million in damages in a long-term running patent infringement with the Dish Network and EchoStar.
It's important to know they lost this case in 2006, and back then it was only a $103 million injunction. And Dish Network, Charlie Ergen, gotta love him, he said, I will re-engineer the TiVo patent, which is called the time warp patent. I love tech guys and how they name stuff. And that was, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
They kept trying to re-Jimmy Wanger the ability to time shift.
Jimmy Wanger?
Jimmy Wanger.
It's another tech term.
Tech term, yeah. So they kept trying to re-engineer the way that this pausing live TV technology works, and they weren't able to. So here they are 3 years later, double the fines. Booyah. And the stock went from, $3, $4, up to $11. So, I'm fighting for you guys, TiVo. Let's keep that going.
TiVo has been talking about this for years. We had someone from TiVo on the show, I remember, a couple years ago talking about this. It's been going on.
It's been going on forever. But what still bugs me about TiVo as opposed to the EchoStar version of the same product or the Dish Network, is that they don't have the skip forward thing. With the Dish Network, bang, you hit 30 seconds, and so you see a commercial break come on,
there's a backdoor. There is a backdoor.
Yeah, but who's going to program these things? Yeah, I know you could program it to do
but
it.
Remember, Replay got shut down. Replay was a DVR that came out actually before TiVo.
Right.
The pricing model was screwed up because you had to pay for the service up front, so it wasn't as popular. But it had such features as skip forward, and also had the ability to network DVRs together.
Didn't they have to pull that feature?
They
though?
did, right?
Yeah.
Because the advertisers got mad at the ability to skip ads. You know, the irony
Which was
of all
already
this is-
happening anyway.
Sure. But to do it manually versus having to do it just via a couple clicks of the button is what's different. But what's the irony of all this is Hulu is making only digital dimes. You know, it used to be digital pennies, but you have to watch the ads, and the ads are crap. I wish they'd.
Well, but the problem is the number of ads being produced for online is very low compared to the number of ads that are being produced for regular television, and it just means it costs a lot of money to produce ads and needs to
Yeah, but
have
they can
more people
repurpose
produce
those, Dave. You know that. They
No,
can
but there's a
push
lot
them.
of people who want to spend money online who don't have the money to buy, great broadcast.
When do you think
television
the
ads.
year will be for that to take place? When people use television as maybe seminal events like sporting events and things that you want to have high quality HD versus the web, which is the biggest DVR in the sky.
Yeah,
When do you think?
it's a ways away.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people compute and watch TV at the same time. That's well established.
I find that to be
research.
peculiar.
No, but especially I just wrote this piece about watching the NBA finals through social media. The number of people who sit there with their computer watching sports.
I have watched some of the,
tweeting about it.
Yeah, I've watched
It's
some of the
endless.
NBA finals like that because you can go look up stats and things like that.
Yeah,
Or if you don't know who a player is, you can
What was the score of the last game?
check them out. I was Orlando by 4 last night.
108, 104.
108,
No, it
104.
wasn't last night.
It was last
That
week.
was last week. You
And
don't
it's
even-
possible
so you don't-
that one team won the finals.
When was it? It was last night. Orlando.
It was last week.
It was not.
We'll take a break and straighten him out right after this.
It was not.
Need some new kicks? Run over to eastbay.com where you can use our code CRANKY15 to get 15% off any order, or CRANKY20 to get 20% off any order of $75 or more.
Good Clean Tech promises to report on the latest eco-friendly developments. That way, we'll always be able to remember moments like these. Visit goodcleantech.com, the independent guide to eco-technology.
Welcome back to the Cranky Geeks. Will Hulu start charging for web service or web video? Does anybody think, this is a story that's been floating around, do you think that there's any possibility that they're going to do this? Because I don't think it's going to happen.
They could do it on
No,
first
it's
run
not.
stuff, right? Think about what Netflix
Well,
does
what's a
to charge
first
for a
run?
movie. Like a movie that just comes out, right? You have pay-per-view on television.
Yeah,
which
but
makes
you mean a
sense.
movie that you would go to the theater?
Right. Yeah, I think they could do that, premium content.
If an episode of Lost aired the day before, the day it was supposed to air, people would buy it to watch it online. No doubt about it. If the demand's high enough, people will spend the money. And it's all about if people are willing to buy it and you don't charge them for it, then you've left money on the table. And you don't want to
Do you
run into
think
that
people
situation.
want to watch Lost a day in advance because...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just look at-
people would shell out a couple of bucks just so they could see it a day before.
You also have to remember Hulu is ultimately owned by Rupert Murdoch, and he does not like to give things away for free. He wants to charge for every bit.
And with Disney joining the fold as well, they're even worse about that. But I used to have the Bud, the big ugly dishes, the 12-foot ones, and I would record shows like 90210 and Melrose Place, probably some of your favorites, David.
No.
The day before.
You just admitted that you recorded that, yet you're blaming me on watching it.
You gotta watch that. He's good at catching that kind of stuff. That's the one thing about him.
But it was really cool. I'd pull the network feed down with my Bud and know the story timeline ahead of time. But look what happened, to go back to modern time.
No, but what I need to know is who was your favorite character?
I'll get with you that after the show.
go on.
But what's interesting is NBC used to have pay-per-show on iTunes, right? And they pulled out of that, and then they created Hulu, and then they put the pay-per-show back onto iTunes. I don't know anyone that buys shows for their iPhone or iTouch on iTunes anymore. Do you guys?
I don't.
Yeah, it's all about the stream.
I buy rent movies on iTunes, but I think the trick is what Rupert Murdoch can do is they can create a demand by purposely delaying the release of films or TV shows or whatnot and saying, But if you want the early, you want to be one of the people who watch it early, then charge for it. There's no doubt about it. I think you could get money for that if the demand's high enough.
Yeah, you might be right. Now that you mention it, I personally can't see. I don't even like going. I just as soon watch stuff. I don't even go to the theater half the time because I figure I got a bigger screen at home, and I can just wait for it to come out on HD on HBO.
John has IMAX at home. That's what
IMAX.
That's what he hasn't
It's actually
told us.
kind of cool.
But you don't watch 3D films at home, do you?
No.
Did you guys do the Super Bowl 3D nonsense?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I did that with
I'm confused.
the monsters.
Yeah, I think 3D is a fad.
Anyway.
Okay, we talked about this last week a little bit, but Intel purchased Wind River, and it looks now as though they're going to move into. Why do you think they did this?
This is great for them because now you can take these embedded systems. Think about TiVo has been around since '99 with a 60 megahertz PowerPC processor. Ultimately, we're going to have computers all over the house, right? There's devices now like Pogo Plug, which will act as like Slingbox for your files. It's a 4-watt processor. Think about it. Your nightlight took 4 watts 10 years ago. Now it's probably LED or some other hippie technology. But being able to have a computer in your living room makes sense for things like the Hulu living room or the Boxy living room.
They bought this for one reason only. They want to sell CPUs into phones. Wind River's got
CPUs into any
200 people work at Wind River working on embedded Linux.
Right, they do embedded Linux stuff like that.
specifically.
I agree that it's going to go into
200
phones.
people at Wind River are working on the Android.
I agree that it's going to go into phones, but Intel has been into a lot of initiatives related to this stuff, like the mobile Linux initiative, where you have that going into all kinds of devices. It's not just phones.
Right now, the phones are selling at a 1.2 billion clip a year.
Yeah, but it's the Symbian OS that's the number one.
Yeah,
it's
this right
Nokia
now.
around the world with the TI OMAP processor.
Right now, 100 million phones are smartphones, and that's expected to at least get to 500 million. That's 500 million microprocessors because the smartphones need them. That's a lot of processors for Intel to sell at $2 a piece.
Yeah, but I think there's more opportunity for them to have these little nightlight CPUs that run around your house
Maybe.
and do things.
Maybe I'd like to have
Do the nightlight CPUs keep the monsters out?
Ooh, only on Wednesdays.
In a recent call on PC Mag's Tim Baharan writes that trends in CPUs such as better power consumption and specialty chips and servers means that people are paying more attention than as they used to the chips. Since when?
No, that's BS.
No, because years ago, you remember?
Baharan is just trying to get attention.
Years ago, there was this big push from AMD and others. Don't pay attention to the gigahertz so much. Get out of that model, which people used to only pay attention to that. That's how they defined how fast a computer was.
But it did actually mean something. There was a time when the low end to the high end system was very different, and there were things you could only do with the high end system that you couldn't do with
That's
the low
before
end
the
system.
internet slowed us down. Because
That's
of
true.
America's terrible connectivity to the internet, it doesn't matter if you have a 4 gigahertz
Right.
overclocked machine. It's still going to be just as fast with when
gonna
I
be
jump on my
capped by your
cable.
broadband.
But there was a period in the very, very early days of video conferencing and video mail
Yep.
that a good, fast processor could compensate for having only a 56K connection.
Yep.
Right, and those days are over.
Long over.
But
long over.
there's another complex. Wait, let me just throw one other thing into the pot. There's another. Somebody pointed this out to me. Just it's so simple. He said, everything changed once. Once they started promoting, let's don't do the gigahertz, megahertz game anymore. And then they started bringing out all these different SKUs, these SKUs for all these different chips. You don't know what chip you've got.
Yeah.
And it's like it used to be. The guy says to me, it was so easy, and they would move a lot more computers because they had a 286, and when the 386 came out, you had to get it. And when the 486 came out, you had to get it. Right. And again, you could lockstep in with. You knew what was going on. You knew what the top chip was. Name me the top Intel chip.
You can't tell, and AMD is actually worse at this. They came out with this naming strategy where the chips are named like I-75, I plus minus.
And they don't even tell the
Yeah.
true megahertz either. It's a factor, an AMD factor. So the bus speed is one thing, the chip speed's another, but its overall speed is even higher. But I've got one of these little netbooks, and this is a 1.6 gigahertz Intel chip. And this thing runs great. But the low power makes sense because I can get about 4 hours of use from this machine. So power does make sense, and it doesn't cook my lap either because it's a low voltage.
Yeah, something good about these that people don't realize is some of them have outstanding battery life because the displays are small, and that's what sucks a lot of the juice.
I kind of like the warmness in my lap.
You've been married too long.
We're going to be warming up here if we don't take a break. We'll be right back right after this. Hi, I'm John C. Dvorak. This is a look at Squarespace. I'm going to show you how to put a page up that can contain all your photographs rather easily. You go up here to the structured editor and click on that, and you'll see where it says on the left-hand side of your page, Add Page. Hit Add Page, and you're given a number of options here of different kinds of pages you can put up. They're all done for you, actually. And in this case, you're going to put up Picture Gallery. You click on that. You create the page. You put a title on it. I'm going to call it Picture Gallery. Hit the Create Page button, and the next thing you know, you've got a menu item at the top of the screen. Do that, make sure it clicks. Menu item at the top of the screen right here, Picture Gallery. Now you can configure it, you can add photos, you can do a whole slew of things. I'm John C. Dvorak. That's been a look at Squarespace. Welcome back to Cranky Geeks. Okay, Microsoft adds more porn filters to Bing. I guess this Bing thing is the porn, machine.
Yeah, they got into a lot of trouble for it. What happened was, when it first came out, you could go into the video search part of it, and if you entered, say, a porn or sexual term, it would go give you video previews from porn sites, hardcore porn clips. And all you had to do was hover over the thumbnails to make them play with audio, the whole experience. So you're going to get a 12-year-old kid out there, even if there are parental controls and things like that, it's not going to say that he did anything except he went to Bing.com, and he can sit there and watch 500 porn.
Well, first of all,
what 12-year-old kid wants to watch 500
Quite
porn?
a lot of them.
Quite a lot of them?
Mm-hmm.
The safe search is on by default, like they do on Yahoo and like they do on Google as well. But there's no I don't see any actual lock that you can put. Is there any even password protection?
No, I want
You'd
to
have
unlock it actually. So is there a keyword I can do to unlock that and
press
re-enable
safe
that feature?
search off. How difficult is that?
If you go to Extras Preferences at Bing's homepage, you can get to whether you have safe search on or off.
Don't
Look,
you
this is the best marketing that Microsoft could ever get right now. That Windows 7 is actually a decent product, but Vista has put Microsoft in the doldrums. And the Bing technology came from PowerSet, which Microsoft bought a few years ago. And you know what's really interesting? I looked up the domain Bing, and it was registered by Microsoft in 1996. So I want to know what, this is like, I could just see what is going on in the exercise. We've got a lot of assets, and somebody comes with a book, a tome of all the domains that they own.
And they flip through and they say, how about Bing?
Yeah, they're like, what are all the short ones? We need 4-letter domains. But I think this is the best promotion.
Well, you know what Bing probably was? It was probably going to be like an offshoot of Microsoft Bob. And
it reminds me of that name.
His
the
Latino brother.
Worst named product.
You might have, that actually, it's actually a possibility. All right, Antipiracy Pup sniffs out 35,000 illegal DVDs. How does a dog? I know, by the way, if you ever go to the airport and you see these dogs, there's always a guy with a dog, they always tell you what kind of a dog it is if you ask. So is that a bomb dog? Is that a fruit dog? There's a bomb dog, a fruit dog, and a drug dog. That's been the normal dogs that they have.
So the fruit dog is gay?
That's good.
The fruit dog, because in California we have a bunch of laws about bringing fruit in.
I got so nailed one time.
And I think about homosexual dogs. You're not allowed to bring those in either.
It's don't ask, don't tell. The pups have that
What's your email? David Spark. You can look him out on Google.
I got nailed. I was smuggling tulips in last year, and one of those dogs just took me down. And
Where were you coming from?
Amsterdam.
There's a place on the water where all the tulip market is, and there's 2 or 3 places that have the
I didn't have the seal. You got to have the seal.
Yeah.
He actually pinned you?
Oh, nailed me down and just licking my face. It was wonderful.
The dog?
That's why you brought the tulips in.
So the dog spotted the tulip.
Yeah, it came right after me.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, when I brought some. When I go there, I get what's that bigger giant plant that grows? It's in a bulb.
Marijuana.
Yeah. It's a bulb plant, and I went through the process of getting it from Amsterdam with the stamp, because there's 2 or 3 shops that have them. And so you go in there, and the joke of it is, it's the same bulbs they sell to everybody else, but they just put it in a different box and kind of staple it up and then wrap it with a bunch of these these little stamps and seals.
So my question is, how does this dog smell the DVDs?
That's where we're getting to. Let me finish my anecdote. So anyway, I went through the process of declaring it, and they said that's exactly what you're supposed to do, and they send you over to a whole different area, and then they check the plant and they do the whole thing, and it says, so you should have done that. That's the question I have. How does a dog smell an illegal CD?
First of all, how does it know the smell of an illegal DVD
I
or a
think it's
legal
just
one?
the plastic. Obviously,
why
all this
does it
stuff.
smell the plastic?
And the combination,
No. But
the
everything's
combination of
plastic.
chemicals that are used to
I'm
produce
not
a DVD.
buying it.
They have good senses of smell.
I know they do, but what's the difference between a DVD and a good and a bad?
But
They're made by the same
And they're
machinery.
encased in plastic. Like, how could it smell?
But it's a
it? I don't get
location.
it.
You know, where are they?
Maybe it's because
what is-
there's 35,000 of them. Maybe
Yeah.
the dog's smelling plastic.
That's right. Yeah, and it's a lab, so their sense of smell is far beyond ours. I'm no veterinarian.
This
but
could
is what I'm
also
told.
be a bogus story.
That
Ooh,
too.
thwarting piracy.
Yeah, because the dogs really can't accomplish this feat. And so they put out a phony press release that a dog caught something with 35,000 discs.
It's possible they packed the 35,000 discs all in heroin.
Yeah.
That they could have caught.
Or in Purina dog chow.
Laced with heroin.
All right. Will stimulus spending save WiMAX? Why are we talking about saving WiMAX? I think WiMAX probably has a good shot at surviving.
It hasn't even launched yet. I mean, they got these little niche markets for it. But look, all the Muni Wi-Fi projects went belly up, and that was because it was too expensive to deploy things that only had 100 meters of coverage.
Yeah.
And WiMAX is supposed to have better coverage, but until I actually...
Miles, 20 miles.
Has anyone actually connected using WiMAX?
Yes,
I've never.
There's a bunch of, I haven't personally, but I know people up in Portland where they have a WiMAX citywide, and I've grilled them about it. They said it's fantastic.
So how are they doing it? Like, what's the service they have to go through? What do they have to do to connect?
Typically, it's a clear
You
wire
have to,
modem, right?
Yeah, you have to get a special modem.
Just the modem and that's it.
Yeah, and just everywhere.
But I think these initiatives are going to fall short because this is the same thing that happened with Muni Wi-Fi. There's too much riding at stake with the 3 and 4G mobile operators that want you on that $60 a month plan to go with the
With
little
limited-
dosage.
This is an endless story with all the telcos lobbying.
That's right.
DC. I mean, yes, they're going to push this stuff down, keep it down. Like, why Google was trying to lobby as well to make ubiquitous wireless. This is going to go on for a while, and the telcos have stronger lobbying power than I think anyone right now. The amount they spend, puts what it was like a $500 million.
What are you accusing
that Google
everybody?
wanted to spend?
What you're doing is implying that there's the level of corruption within the government that would allow something like this, because this is not to the benefit of the public. This $60 a month crap that the phone companies
The
have.
telcos are trying to protect their investments, and if something like this comes around, it completely wipes out
It's
their
so
investments.
cyclical, though. Think about it. The government just auctioned off all of our analog television spectrum frequency so they could push people off analog over to digital, so telecom operators could put LTE and 4G networks on that. So the money is just going around in an endless circle, and God bless America.
And God bless this show, because we're out of time. I'm John C. Dvorak. You've been watching Cranky Geeks. We'll be back again next week.